Vivian Vance's last interview made everyone cry. Let me tell you her incredible story. Vivian Vance was born with the name Vivian Roberta Jones on July 26, 1909. She came into the world in a tiny country town called Cherryvale, Kansas. It was the kind of small place where everybody knew everybody else's name, and life moved along at a nice, slow, steady pace. Her mom and dad were named Robert and Euphemia Jones, and they tried their very best to raise all their kids with good manners and old-fashioned family values. Vivian wasn't an only child. She had 5 brothers and sisters. That meant 6 kids total living under one roof. Growing up in such a loud and busy house really shaped who Vivian would become. There was always lots of noise, kids running around everywhere, and plenty of playful arguing between siblings. Vivian had to learn fast how to speak up loudly so people would actually hear what she had to say. When Vivian turned 6 years old, something big happened. The whole Jones family packed up their things and moved to a new town called Independence, Kansas. This town was much bigger than Cherryvale, and it gave Vivian access to more things she'd never had before. She started going to Independence High School when she got older, and that's where something magical happened. She took her very first drama class. Her family had absolutely no idea that this one simple class would light a huge fire inside her heart. It would end up completely changing the direction of her entire life. When Vivian got up on that stage to perform, something clicked inside her. She felt like people could finally see the real her. She felt understood and more alive than she'd ever felt doing anything else in her whole life. Even though Vivian was falling more and more in love with acting every single day, her mother absolutely hated the idea. Her mom, Euphemia, had very traditional and conservative thoughts about how the world should work. She believed that the entertainment business was way too unstable and definitely not a proper job for a respectable young lady. Euphemia disapproved so strongly that it caused constant fighting and bad feelings in their home. But here's the thing about Vivian. She wasn't the type of person to just give up when things got hard. She had this quiet but really strong independent streak running through her, and it only got stronger whenever someone tried to stop her. Her rebellion wasn't crazy or wild or reckless like you might imagine. Instead, it was focused and thoughtful. She made a bold choice and changed her last name from Jones to Vance. This was her way of symbolically showing the world that she was going to build her own life the way she wanted to. She started finding small odd jobs here and there to earn money and support her big dreams. Late at night, when everyone else was asleep, she would actually sneak out of her bedroom window. She'd slip out into the cool Kansas night air to go rehearse her lines, try out for shows, or just let herself dream about a life that was bigger than the limits people were trying to put on her. Finally, because she was so determined to fully throw herself into acting, Vivian made another huge decision. She moved all the way to Albuquerque, New Mexico, so she could chase her dream of becoming a professional actress. In 1930, something really exciting happened. Vivian got her very first real break in show business. She appeared in a show at a place called the Albuquerque Little Theater. It wasn't a huge, fancy Broadway show or anything like that, but it was hers, and that made it incredibly special and important. From that point forward, things started picking up speed. Vivian began getting cast in all sorts of local theater productions. She performed in plays with names like This Thing Called Love and The Cradle Song. Every single time she stepped on stage, she impressed the people in the New Mexico theater world more and more. They could see something in her that her own mother couldn't see: real talent, dedication that didn't quit, and that special something that makes a star shine. Her incredible work ethic and natural charm won over directors and other actors who worked with her. Then something truly meaningful happened that showed just how much people believed in her. Members of the local theater community actually raised money, real money, to send Vivian all the way to New York City. They wanted her to study under a legendary and famous stage actress named Eva Le Gallienne. This generous gesture completely changed the course of Vivian's destiny forever. Vivian jumped headfirst into the busy, exciting world of New York theater with tons of energy and determination. She started her Broadway career in 1932, and at first she worked in the chorus. Being in the chorus meant dancing and singing in the background, which was physically exhausting and often a thankless job that didn't get much appreciation. But it taught her important lessons about discipline and how to have a strong presence on stage. Little by little, she worked her way up from the chorus into supporting parts, small but important roles. This gave her valuable experience that made her comedic timing sharper and helped her dramatic instincts grow stronger. In 1937, something good happened. She landed a supporting role in a musical called Hooray for What. This marked her big step away from just being in the chorus line, and it opened doors to more important and prominent roles. Then, by 1941, she achieved her biggest early success on stage. She got to star in Cole Porter's musical Let's Face It, where she played a character named Nancy Collister. Her performance was so good that she won praise from critics and audiences everywhere, and it really helped cement her reputation as a gifted comedic actress with a warm, relatable stage presence that people loved. Vivian decided to relocate to California in 1947, right when Hollywood was absolutely booming with activity. After spending many years grinding away and working super hard in theater, she began dipping her toes into the exciting but scary world of film. In 1950, she made her very first movie debut in a film called The Secret Fury. She played a character named Lee, who was a chambermaid. It was a small part, nothing major, but it was a start, and that's what mattered. Soon after that, she appeared in another movie called The Blue Veil, where she played a character named Alicia. Even though her film career never reached the same incredible heights as her work on stage and television, these movie roles showed that she was versatile, meaning she could do different types of acting, and that she had a desire to keep exploring new paths in the entertainment world. Then came the performance that would prove to be absolutely life-changing. Vivian was performing in a play called The Voice of the Turtle when something incredible happened. Daisy Arnaz and a producer named Jess Oppenheimer went to see her on stage, and they were completely struck by her natural comedic presence. At that time, they were searching desperately for the perfect actress to play a character named Ethel Mertz in their upcoming television sitcom called I Love Lucy. Now here's an interesting fact. The character of Ethel was supposed to be older and less glamorous than Vivian actually was in real life, but Daisy felt strongly in his gut that Vivian was absolutely the right choice for the role. And guess what? He was completely and absolutely right about that. In 1951, I Love Lucy premiered on American television, and it quickly struck a chord with viewers all across the nation. Vivian's portrayal of Ethel, who was loyal, funny, slightly long, suffering, and brilliantly reactive to Lucy's crazy schemes, made her an instant audience favorite. People absolutely loved her character. The show became one of the most successful sitcoms in all of American history, and it ran for 7 incredibly popular years. Even after the original series ended and went off the air, Vivian didn't stop playing her beloved character. In 1954, she appeared again as Ethel Mertz on a show called Texaco Star Theater. Then, from 1957 to 1960, she starred in the Lucy, Daisy Comedy Hour, once again bringing Ethel's wit and warmth into the living rooms of millions and millions of fans across America. In 1960, when Lucille Ball came back to television with a brand new series called The Lucy Show, she really wanted Vivian right by her side. At first, Vivian wasn't so sure about it. She hesitated because she had grown really frustrated that audiences constantly called her Ethel, instead of acknowledging her as Vivian Vance, the real person. Eventually, she agreed to join the show, but she had one important condition. She wanted her character to be named Vivian, not Ethel. The producers granted her request, and this allowed her to step into a new version of herself while still sharing her undeniable chemistry with Lucille Ball, who by that point had become one of her very closest friends in the whole world. After The Lucy Show ended, Vivian accepted a role in a 1965 film called The Great Race. This was a high-profile comedy movie that actually earned several Academy Award nominations, which was pretty impressive. Unfortunately, even though the movie was successful, it didn't significantly elevate or boost her film career in the way she might have hoped. Her film work had always been somewhat secondary, meaning less important, compared to her amazing success in television and theater. From 1968 to 1972, she made guest appearances on Lucille Ball's next show, which was called Here's Lucy. This continued the decades-long creative partnership that had defined so much of her career and life. She also popped up on various other TV programs during this time, including The Red Skelton Show, Guestward Ho!, Off to See the Wizard, and the beloved sitcom Rhoda. In 1972, she did something a little different. She lent her voice to an animated TV special called The Lorax, which added another skill to her impressive repertoire of talents. Over the next few years, she appeared in more television specials with titles like The Front Page, The Great Houdini, and Getting Away from It All. She revisited her iconic persona one final time in a TV special called Lucy Calls the President, where she portrayed Vivian, formerly known as Ethel, for the very last time. Her final television appearance came in 1978 in a series called Sam, and that closed the curtain on her long, rich, and completely unforgettable career. Vivian Vance's personal life was just as full of twists, turns, and emotional chapters as the characters she brought to life on screen for everyone to see. She was involved in several romantic relationships over the years, and her romantic history included 4 marriages. Each marriage marked a very different era and chapter of her life. Her first marriage happened in 1928 to a young man named Joseph Danek Jr. At that time, Vivian was still trying to carve out her place in the world. She was filled with ambition and really eager to prove herself as a serious actress. The marriage seemed like it would be a hopeful step toward having some stability in her life. But the pressures of her early career and the realities of being young and in love quickly proved really difficult to navigate and handle. After 3 years of trying hard to balance home life with her growing passion for being on stage, the couple got divorced. This left Vivian with an early lesson about the sacrifices that her chosen path would continue to demand from her. In 1933, she decided to take another chance on marriage, and this time it was with a man named George Koch. By that point, she was more established in her career and felt more confident about herself. But the world of show business continued to pull her in unpredictable directions that were hard to control. The pair stayed together for several years, and they weathered both personal and professional highs and lows as Vivian's roles expanded, and her commitments grew deeper and more demanding. Despite their best efforts to make things work, the marriage began to strain under the weight of her demanding schedule and her constant drive to excel and be the best. Ultimately, the couple parted ways in 1940, which closed the chapter on a relationship that had seen both tender, loving moments and mounting tensions. Her third marriage was to an actor named Philip Ober in 1941, and this one lasted nearly 2 decades, almost 20 years. It was perhaps the most complex and challenging marriage of all her relationships. On the surface, it seemed like their shared profession would be a natural bond. After all, they both understood the acting world. Their early years together were filled with the mutual excitement of working in the same industry. However, as time went on and years passed, the marriage became increasingly troubled and difficult. Their personalities clashed and didn't match well, and the pressures of Hollywood, along with all the expectations that were placed on Vivian during her I Love Lucy years, added tons of emotional strain to their relationship. Though their marriage endured and lasted for 18 long years, the relationship was far from easy or happy. The divorce in 1959 marked the end of a long and often painful journey for Vivian. Yet somehow, love managed to find its way to her once again. On January 16, 1961, Vivian Vance married John Dodds, who was a publisher. His calm, steady presence brought a completely new sense of balance and peace into her life. With him, she found a partnership that felt gentler, kinder, and more supportive than anything she had ever known before. The two of them settled into a peaceful rhythm in Connecticut, where they created a real home together. This was far away from the glare and spotlight of Hollywood and the demanding, exhausting pace of the entertainment industry. It was during this quieter, more peaceful chapter of her life that Vivian had to face one of her greatest personal challenges, a devastating cancer diagnosis that turned her world upside down. Through it all, Dodds remained right by her side through every single medical appointment, every anxious and scary night, and every moment of uncertainty and fear. He became a true source of loyalty, love, and strength for her when she needed it most. Now let me tell you about Vivian Vance's final interview, which has become one of those moments in Hollywood history that people still talk about with a kind of hushed, quiet reverence. It wasn't just another celebrity sitting down to reminisce and tell old stories about a career, or to plug and promote some new project. This was different. This was Vivian opening her heart in a way she rarely allowed the public to see, and by the time she finished talking, everyone who was present in that room, from the crew members holding boom microphones to the interviewer sitting across from her, had tears streaming down their faces. The atmosphere in that small room felt almost sacred and holy, as if everyone there knew deep down that they were witnessing the last great burst of light from a woman whose warmth and incredible talent had defined an entire era. She spoke softly but with unmistakable clarity, reflecting thoughtfully on the moments that had shaped her entire life. "I never expected to be remembered," she said quietly, and that line hit everyone like a punch straight to the chest. For someone who had been part of one of the most iconic and famous shows in all of American television history, the vulnerability and openness of that confession made the entire room go completely still and silent. She described her long journey from her humble beginnings in Kansas all the way to the dazzling but intense pressure of Hollywood. She admitted honestly that there were days when she felt like the whole world expected her to be Ethel Mertz every single waking hour of every day. "People saw me as the funny friend, the one who cleaned up the mess," she added with a sad smile. "But off-screen, when the cameras weren't rolling, I was still trying to figure out who I really was." It was the kind of raw, honest statement that peeled away every layer of celebrity glamour and fame, and left only the real human being underneath for everyone to see. When she talked about Lucille Ball, her voice began to tremble with deep affection and emotion. "Lucy saved my life more than once," Vivian admitted openly, and it wasn't just a dramatic line meant for effect or to sound good. It was the absolute truth pouring out of her heart. The decades of laughter they had shared, the arguments they'd had, the reconciliations and making up, and the deeply rooted bond between the two of them, all of it spilled out in tender, loving recollections. She remembered clearly the very first table read of I Love Lucy, when she realized she'd be working beside a woman who was not only a powerhouse performer and incredible talent, but also someone who understood her in ways that very few people ever had in her life. "We made each other brave," she whispered so quietly that people had to lean in to hear. Even the interviewer, who was supposed to stay professional, had to look away for a moment, blinking back emotion and trying not to cry. But it wasn't all just nostalgia and looking back at the good old days. Vivian spoke openly and honestly about the real battles she had fought behind the scenes where no one could see. She talked about her struggles with her health, with body image pressures that the industry put on her, and with the loneliness that sneaks up on actors when the bright studio lights go out and everyone goes home. People think laughter fixes everything, she said with a knowing look, but sometimes laughter is the only way you can keep going and survive. She didn't want anyone's pity or to feel sorry for her. What she wanted was for the truth to be recorded. Something raw and meaningful that showed she had lived her life with intention, resilience, and real love. She wanted people to understand the whole picture, not just the funny parts they saw on TV. Toward the end of the interview, her physical strength began to waver and weaken, but she absolutely insisted on finishing her thoughts. She wasn't going to leave anything unsaid. "If I made someone feel less alone," Vivian said with quiet determination, "then I did something worthwhile with my time here." The beautiful simplicity of that statement carried way more weight and meaning than 1,000 grand, flowery speeches ever could. The people who were present that day said it felt like she was offering a final gift, not to the entertainment industry, not to her famous co-stars, but to the everyday, regular viewers who had welcomed her into their homes and hearts for decades. She was speaking directly to them, the people who really mattered. By the time the cameras finally stopped rolling and the interview was over, there wasn't a single dry eye anywhere in that room. Technicians who normally kept totally stoic, unemotional expressions on their faces while working were quietly wiping their faces and trying to hide their tears. The interviewer, who had prepared so many careful questions beforehand, could only manage to thank her with a shaky voice and hold her hand for a long moment. Vivian had completely bared her soul and shown her true self, and the truth of her words, which were gentle, vulnerable, and incredibly brave, settled over the entire room like a soft, warm blanket wrapping everyone up. Her final interview wasn't just a simple farewell or goodbye. It was a powerful reminder of how deeply a single person's life can resonate and touch others when someone makes the brave choice to speak honestly, without any pretense or fakeness, about what mattered most to them. And for those lucky enough to witness it in person, they carried that precious memory with them forever, never forgetting what they saw and felt that day. In 1977, something terrible happened to Vivian. She suffered a stroke, which is when blood flow to the brain gets blocked. This stroke left her partially paralyzed, meaning she couldn't move parts of her body normally anymore. Vivian's health got worse and worse during her final few years of life. Sadly, she passed away on August 17, 1979, leaving behind an incredible legacy that people still remember and love today.